right, welcome to the WireRadio.com, the Wyme Wruscel radio show. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Wyme Wruscel, and it is a beautiful day here in the San Fernando Valley, California, where I am, of course, the outskirts of Los Angeles, the entertainment capital of the world. And I apologize if I'm a little stuffed up today. I guess I'm coming down with something. Let's hope it's not something too deadly or something I'm not going to survive from. But anyway, you're going to have to go ahead and deal with that. I apologize, but I am here for you today. All right. So this is a Tuesday, an exciting day here in, pardon me if you hear the papers and all that. We are deep in the trenches here in the bunker. Now I want to go ahead and I am going to be, you might hear that drop from time to time. That is the punch button. I hope a cough button. I hope I didn't snort right in your ear. But welcome to the WireRadio.com, the Wyme Wruscel Internet Radio Show. Pardon me, I confuse that with the Wruscel Internet Radio Experience, and I have to say all that together. So we do it professionally, and we get it all down on we get everything down we had on the paper. Now we have a few announcements today. Today we're going to be talking about some events that occurred here in my town yesterday, and we're going to kind of discuss some facts relating to a police shooting. An LAPD officer was shot in the arm, and we're not sure if it was a shooting or if it was shrapnel or if it was glass from a car that was hit by bullets, but we're going to discuss what happened yesterday here in Reseda, California, with an LAPD officer being shot, and then we're going to kind of discuss police violence and how it affects us all here in America in 2014, because it is, I believe it's rampant, but I want to ask you, is it occurring on both sides of the coin? So is society more angry with the police, and has the police become less tolerant of society, and are they just coming with their guns out and they shoot first and tell you to freeze later? And we all know that routine. But so before we get into that, I do have a few announcements here on the wire. Of course, let me go ahead and announce in our second hour today we'll be talking to a comedian and actor, Mr. Sal Rodriguez. He's an exciting gentleman here, based out of Los Angeles, and he's very talented and has a lot of good information for us. We're kind of go through his career. He's got an amazing story, and we are going to catch up with Mr. Sal Rodriguez. And if you've listened to my shows from the past, you'll know that Mr. Sal Rodriguez is a personal friend of mine, and we are going to go ahead and have a little discussion and kind of get caught up on what he's doing and what I'm doing, and we're going to try to, see if we can't, woo him over here, if that's even possible. But so second hour we'll be talking to Mr. Sal Rodriguez, and let's see, what else did I have here? I did have a few notes on the network. We did launch a mobile version of the Wruscel Internet Radio Experience, and that is the Smart Wire. So if you have a mobile device, you can go ahead and log on from your mobile device, and you will hit the Smart Wire. And all that is obviously a mobile version of the website, www.thewireradio.com. And if you're listening to me, then you obviously know that web address. But if you go to it on your mobile phone, you will find a simplified version, a much friendlier version for your phone. I'm sure you're familiar with mobile apps, and it certainly is out there for you. You do have an option of listening directly from your mobile phone, which is great. So you don't have to, log in from your desktop or catch it on download. You can listen to us live here on thewireradio.com from your mobile device. So that is very exciting. Check out the Smart Wire. All right. So, submissions, folks. So I do need independent musical submissions. So if you're a band, or if you know somebody who's in a band, or if you know an independent record label or promoter, or anybody who has, even people who make music for a hobby, I'd be more than happy to play your music here on thewireradio.com. We do need independent music, which is music not owned or licensed by the huge mega conglomerations or conglomerates that we are trying to level, right? So let's kind of bind together on this, guys. And if you're hearing this, and if you have some music that you'd like to be heard, or that you'd like to be played on internet radio, please send it to me via our submissions page. Or, of course, you can always, and if you don't like that, format, or if you don't like that interface, you can always send it to wyme@thewireradio.com. And I will, go ahead and attach the MP3. Make sure it's not too big. Please don't attach WAV files, because we know WAV files are huge. please convert the WAV file or your song, if it is in WAV, to an MP3, and I can always reconvert. If it's too high of a bandwidth, or if it's too high of a compression rate, I can go ahead and make that adjustment without making any changes to your audio quality, and we can go ahead and get that into our system. Let me just briefly note that what I am looking for is or what we do need is a 128 kbps band. She's looking at me. It's funny. Yeah, so that's the bit rate. That's it. The bit rate. Thank you. So we need that 128K bit rate, and you can send it along to us. All right, so that is on the submissions page. Please send us your music, or send it to wyme@thewireradio.com. All right. What else? What else do we have? We had one more little piece of information for you about The Wire, and that is WRI Race Talk Live, and that's Wruscel Racing Incorporated. And that's a show that I will personally be hosting every Sunday afternoon after the NASCAR races, as they race on Sundays, and when they end, we're going to go ahead and do a live show and discuss all the events in the races for that day, or for the weekend, obviously. And what we also have is an interactivity during the races. If you go to www.thewireradio.com/sports, and we're going to have to change that to racing, right? Right. And what you can do is, if you kind of go to the middle of the page, you'll see a chat room, and that is indeed WRI Race Talk Live. And what you can do there is interact with all the listeners of The Wire, or any race fans. Even if you're not a listener, come join the chat room, and indeed you will become a listener, because we have a lot of fun there, or we're going to have a lot of fun there, because the potential, of course, is there. So we will discuss the races, we will discuss what's going on, and if you have any interesting comments, or if you want to join me on the broadcast after the chat and after the races, when WRI kicks off live, Wruscel Racing Incorporated kicks off live, we're going to go from 4 to 5 o'clock Sunday afternoons. Then, of course, join us for the show. You can always call in and join me live, and then we'll discuss everything NASCAR for the weekend. All right, and upcoming weekends, anything on your mind, we'll get it done on WRI, or Wruscel Racing Incorporated. All right, so we made our announcements. We're ready to move into our, we're going to, you know what, I'm going to skip the mascot information now. There's a way to become a mascot of individual shows here on thewireradio.com, and if you please, the mascot page information is not available yet. So I was going to mention that, but we're going to go ahead and get the show started. But if you want to become a mascot of any show here on thewireradio.com, or the entire network, which would be somebody we really need at this point, you can do that, and that is just sponsoring a show. The entire show, the entire week, the entire month, and it's all taken care of. And when you become a mascot, you get the embedded ads here on the show. We'll go ahead and run a little plug for you, and we will of course get your ads up on the website with direct links to your website. So that's exciting. That's exposure for you. And I do want to mention that I need companies that are like-minded with Wyme Wruscel over here at the Wruscel Internet Radio Experience, and companies with an open mind, because you're going to certainly need that in order to be a part of what we're doing here at The Wire. So there you are. Become a mascot. Check out Wruscel Racing Incorporated Sunday afternoon from 4 to 5, and send us your and chat with me, of course, during the race, before that. And on the website, wireradio.com/sports, there's a chat room there for the race. And, of course, the Smart Wire, check that out on your mobile device, and, listen to us anywhere you are. Plug that thing into your car, and let's get it cranked up, and your submissions, folks. So I do need your independent musical submissions. All right. So now that all that crap's out of the way, that is the corporate part of it, and we don't really like that part. So let's go ahead and get started on what happened yesterday here in my little town. And this is, of course, I live in Reseda, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, and we are in the middle of the San Fernando Valley, which you know of if you watch television, or if you watch The Tonight Show. Burbank, Universal Studios, all those things are located within the San Fernando Valley. And that is where I am, and that's where I broadcast from. That is where the bunker is, of course. And here we go. So let's see. All right. So yesterday in my neighborhood, I saw a huge onslaught of vehicles rushing towards a certain area. So they were going. It was more than I had seen. That's more than you see for a normal, emergency call. So here goes. Every police vehicle you can possibly imagine. Even the mobile command station. So they have a mobile command station that's like an RV that they actually, roll out and they block off the streets, and they actually use this as some sort of command headquarters, right? During their investigations out on the street. Now, the only time you see this sort of response is when an officer is shot. You rarely ever see this sort of response. What I was witnessing when just an average citizen is shot, or if, let's just say, a citizen is shot by the police. Now, I don't think we see the mobile units. We don't see, 50 squad cars and all of the hoopla and whatever we were watching yesterday, but it was a mess. So point being, I think we're being treated a little differently when we get shot than opposed to when one of theirs gets shot, or when one of the police officers is shot or attacked. There is an amazing response for that police officer. Okay, so here we go. Let's just Dateline, LA Times, guys. February 10th, 2014, a 49-year-old man was in custody Monday after he allegedly shot another man in Reseda, then fired at Los Angeles police responding to the scene. So he injured one officer. I believe there was some injuries to the officer's arm. Now, officers were called to the 7100 block of Yolanda Avenue shortly after 9:30 a.m. on a report of an assault with a deadly weapon, right? So they got a call that somebody was assaulting somebody with a deadly weapon, and the officers found a man there who had been shot in the arm and the leg. So when they walked up to him, and they went up with their guns ablazing, they found that he had actually been shot in the arm and the leg. All right. So witnesses pointed police to a man running from the scene. So there he went. They pointed him out, and the officers began to pursue the suspect. All right. So the man was I'll just give you the street just so you know. He's running down Capps Avenue towards Sherman Way, or just north of a street we have here called Sherman Way. Obviously, these streets mean nothing to you, but the locals will understand the streets in the area I'm speaking of. When he stopped, so the gentleman stopped. So as he was running down the street, he stopped, he turned around, and he fired multiple rounds back at the police. Okay, so that's what's being reported, is that he turned around, fired at them, and and of course it's unclear here, and this is the LA Times, so it should be very clear who shot first, right? But what they're stating is that the person was running down the street, and he shot him. He shot back at the police. Now, the suspect was taken into custody, so they actually got him, and that also tells you that they didn't just go crazy on him and start to, just shoot him, fill him with bullets. He actually survived. So whatever they did to him, I guess they either didn't hit him or he gave up. He did one of those freeze deals, dropped the weapon, and they couldn't shoot him because they knew that they were on like the newscast. Because the way I noticed this was happening was there was all the news copters in the sky, and if you live in a big city around large news companies, if there's any chase or if there's anything big happening, what you'll see is a swarm of helicopters just hovering. They're still. I mean, they're perfectly still in the sky, and I guess they're shooting the scene, and they're kind of reporting on it to their news station. So that's what I noticed first, and obviously I knew something big was happening, and then the onslaught of all the vehicles and all of that. So let's just finish up with this. So an initial LAPD account of the shooting sent to department officials. Let's see. The wounded officer and the first shooting victim were transported to an area hospital. The officer was in stable condition. The initial victim was described as being in good condition when he left the scene. So it was not immediately clear if the officer was struck by a bullet or shrapnel, all right, or some type of broken glass or piece from the patrol car. All right, and that's where I kind of want to stop and ask you a question. and say, okay, so even if this officer so say this gentleman shot at the officers, all right, that's bad. I mean, you're going to get you in prison for probably the rest of your life. I really don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's probably one of the worst crimes you can commit here in America is shooting at or actually hitting a police officer. That is major. So I guess he hit a car, and the officer possibly was wounded by shrapnel. So it wasn't really clear whether or not the officer took a bullet or was hit by a bullet. So that's kind of where I want to ask you and kind of discuss with you. Was that response necessary? Or could that officer just have said, listen, I got hit in the arm, I'm okay. I didn't get hit by a bullet. I got hit by glass, and shrapnel. But, before the public or before the news or before they let that information out, right, on whether he was hit by a bullet or just shrapnel from the vehicle, they're going to get every piece of traction they can get. And when I say they, I mean the LAPD, law enforcement, local government. They're going to try to use this situation as a potential for, the clampdown or the militarization, more weapons, right? Well, we're not safe because we got shot at here in Reseda, so now we need, the machine guns in the cars, and you're going to see a ramping up, just definitely here in my area for sure, in the division from which these police officers come from. But when they leave facts like whether or not the cop was actually hit by a bullet, the officer, was actually hit by a bullet or not, when that's foggy, there's something going on, and they want to hide the fact that he might not have been shot, that he was hit by because they want to amass and assess they want to assess the situation and amass all the control they can. Point being that an entire quarter-mile block or square was closed down, was as a result of this officer possibly being hit by shrapnel or a bullet in the arm. Now, he wasn't shot cleanly in the face or the chest, and thank God. I mean, knock on wood. I'm certainly not advocating that or wanting that in any way. But it wasn't an obvious shooting. There was question. But if you had a business or if you had a home in that block or in that area where that was blocked up, you weren't going home. You weren't going to pick up your kid. If there's a school in that area, you weren't going there, and I'm sure the school was on lockdown, so you weren't going to pick them up anyway, right? Because the LAUSD has this lockdown policy. So once there's a threat in the neighborhood, they'll close the gates to the school and they'll lock it down, and they won't even let parents actually pick their children up until the lockdown is over with. So that's what was occurring in this area for a possible police shooting, right? Wow, and that's what I want you to think about, is that if you have a business or if you're doing anything within this little area where this officer allegedly almost or could have possibly been shot by a bullet, right? You're shut down for the day. You're not going to make any money for the day or for however long the investigation was there, and it was there for hours. It was there late into the afternoon. A whole piece was blocked off, So the point is, how much of this do businesses or do residents or do parents with their kids in these schools, how much do they actually tolerate, or how much should they tolerate, right, from a lockdown or from an area that's being cordoned off because an officer might have been shot in the arm? Right? Now, all this officer had to basically do was say, look, I'm shot in the arm, take me to the hospital, and let's arrest this gentleman and let's wrap it up. But what is this lockdown? It's a method of control. It's showing you how important they are, right? The police, the LAPD, or any police department, but they're going to show you their power, right? You can't have your children right now. You can't go home. You can't go to your business. You can't make money right now, okay, because we're investigating our officer being shot, all right? I want you to think about it. Let's put it into contrast. You have a person that's running up to you with a weapon, okay? That person shoots at you, okay? And you call the police department. Are you going to get mobile choppers in the air? Are you going to get floating choppers? Are you going to get the mobile command center? Are you going to get more than 1 or 2 squad cars? No, you're not. Okay, and I know that for a fact because I live in a gang area, a highly infested gang area, and shootings occur all the time. And they're lucky if a police officer even shows up. And I know that's sad to say, but that is the truth. And I am certainly speaking from experience. All right. Another point I would like to make quickly before we move on from this story is these police officers were worried about shootings. Okay. Where was the command center and where were all these officers on New Year's Eve? Right. Because in my neighborhood on New Year's Eve, it is like a war zone. And I've actually recorded it and I've put it up on YouTube a number of times, but year after year, just to show the ridiculously of what these people do and who these people are. I guarantee you, they're highly armed. They're very highly armed. These people obviously have arsenals, or they all come out with the one gun they have. I don't know what it is, but there are hundreds and hundreds of guns going off in my neighborhood, and some of them are very loud, and some of them are automatic, right? And that also makes you think, who are these people, right? So where was the command post that night? Where were for the common people, right? Because we had the potential of being shot if we were walking around, say at 12:01, right? Or when when the ball drops or when the year changes and all these gunshots start. Where's the command center? Where's the response? There isn't one. There isn't one until one of their officers gets hit. And then they use your tax money. And then they start spending. And then they shut down businesses. And then they encapsulate your children into their schools and lock the doors. All right? Not when the gangs are running rampant on New Year's Eve, trying to, shoot last year dead. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it is ridiculous. It reminds me of the Wild Wild West, the Old West. Yet I'm not living around cowboys and Indians, right? We're not living around, drunken saloons. Well, in theory, we are. And in less respect, we are, right? But listen, we have to understand where the fraud occurs, okay? And the fraud basically is happening to our own personal, sovereignty or to our own personal needs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you have a business in that zone and a police officer is shot, too bad for you. And pray to God you're not the one that shot him. Lord have mercy, right? But if you are a police officer in the line of fire, right, and someone happens to shoot at you and you either get injured from the shrapnel or you get hit by the bullet, well, they're rolling out the white carpet, let's say, and let's hope that doesn't happen. But they're going to roll out the white carpet, and that's all on our dime, guys. All right? We're paying for that response for that police officer to shut down that area, to lock your children in school, to shut the businesses down. But we're not paying, but when it comes to our tax money and New Year's Eve or shootings in the park or, being assaulted as you walk down the street, well, they're not going to spend your tax money on that. They're not going to worry about that. They're not going to protect and serve you there. We're only going to roll out the white carpet for when I say white carpet, I mean directly the carpet to the hospital. You know what I mean? We're going to roll that out for our own, but we're only going to roll that out for citizens if we can get something out of it, right? If we can leave something up in the air, like whether or not the cop actually was hit, right? Because all those businesses and parents are now up in arms over the fact that their business was closed for an entire day because, depending on the type of business you have, that could do bad damage to you, if you've ever run, like a storefront business. Okay, so moving on from that, the shooting in Reseda, let's hope that police officer is okay and that he's doing all right now. I'm sure he is, and let's just hope that guy gets justice, whoever he is. They didn't release his name, the perp in that case, or the stupid shooter. All right, now, let's think for a second, and let's think about police brutality or the recent case of this officer being, or these officers actually being freed for killing this homeless gentleman. Okay, now we're not going to go into specifics because it's a very touchy case. So we're going to walk a little lightly around the outside of this one. But I want to get your thoughts, okay? And I want you to think about what's going on with our police officers and with the violence that's being either shown to the officers or being shown, by the police officers. All right, and I want to ask you: is society at a level, all right, where we're no longer willing to accept certain things from our police force, as far as them telling us what to do? So has society, lost its lost its patience, so to speak, where this person would just want to turn around and shoot as a solution? Obviously you have criminals that do this stuff every day, career criminals that are just going to do this anyway, regardless of any societal situation that we're in or time we're in. It's been happening since guns were invented, right? But is the average Joe, let's say the guy with the job, or the person looking for a job, or whoever, I always say that, but if you're unemployed, you can certainly still be an average Joe, down on your luck. I do understand that, but check it out. Is that guy now not willing to put up with a police officer just harassing him for any reason? And is he willing to now, either speak his mind or show his mind? And it's a scary thought when you think what people have in their homes, as far as weaponry or what they watch on television or the movies they watch, and all of the criminality that is in their consciousness or their minds, just from being an American and absorbing all of our artistry and our film and television. Well, that's all in there, and they know that. But now, do we approach these police officers now with that in the forefront and saying, look, on TV last night I saw somebody stand up to you, so now I don't believe what you're saying is correct, and you know what, now I'm going to stand up to you. Or from wherever that, or wherever the basis comes for you to do that, right? I want you to think about it. And do you have less tolerance for the police officers nowadays, or more tolerance? Maybe it's going the other direction. Maybe I'm on a complete tangent, but I think I see it. With the shooting, it's an example of, let's just shoot. That this is what these people are thinking now. Let's just shoot at them. Or let's just, we're definitely going to run from them. We're not going to oblige them in any way if they say stop, and if they tell us what we're doing wrong, we're not going to listen, and we might just run down the street, turn around, and we're just going to start shooting, and that's what this person did. And I'm not advocating that. But is that where society is now? And it's pretty scary when you really think about it. So, because how many people have a gun in their pocket, or a gun in their waist, or a knife, and how often are you threatened? Let's look at that. You'll see a level of society now that just jumps straight to the FU, the animosity of a fight. So when you will discuss this, when you'll just be walking down the street, and I'm speaking in my own, experience and from my own area. Now, praise the Lord, okay, your Lord, whoever that is. If you live in an area that doesn't, that isn't like I'm describing, but in my area, and where I live, Reseda, California, suburb of Los Angeles, right? It's supposed to be the San Fernando Valley, where Valley girls come from, right? Well, you can walk down the street here, and if you if you don't get out of the way of the kids with the phones, or the adults with the phones, should we say, or I really couldn't tell you. I really couldn't describe who these people are. But if you don't get out of their way, and you bump them, or you tap them, or you walk by them too closely, or whatever it is, they jump to the FU. It's just F you, blah, 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 and wow, it really had to go there. You really had to take it there from a tap or from just not paying attention to where you're walking, right? That was you're the one who wasn't. So then the argument starts, right? Well, what are you talking about? F me, let's, you're the one that wasn't paying attention where you were going. We bumped into each other. What is this animosity? And if that person had a gun, would he pull it out and just blast me? And maybe I just haven't bumped into, or again, let's just hope that maybe I just haven't bumped into the person with the gun yet, right? So, let's just hope that never happens. But, that's where everybody is now. And are they there with or in my area? And is that how we approach the police now? And, in short, my guess is yes, that the people in this area, okay, the criminals I don't even know if these are even criminals. These are just regular people walking down the street. So I think, but they're straight to the F you, I'll kill you. This is what I've heard from people. I've heard, I'll cut your head off. I've heard, I will stab you. I've heard, I will shoot you. I will kill you. Now, those are generic, but the cut your head off was pretty interesting, right? Where'd they get that? I've grown up my whole life watching movies and television, and I've never wanted to, or, living around violent situations and violent people, and I've never told anybody or had the feeling and the enough anger to tell a perfect stranger that F you, that I'm going to cut your head off because you bumped into me because I had my head down looking at my telephone. Bumping into somebody on their telephone, ladies and gentlemen, is enough to be threatened to have your head cut off in Reseda, California in 2014. So that's where my society is. And yesterday we had one of these, I'm going to say it, idiot, shoot back at the police officers. And it is getting out of control. And I just want you to ask yourself, are we as intolerant as the police officers? And are the police officers becoming less tolerant of us? And do they have less patience, right? Are they quicker on the draw? Are they saying stop before they shoot? I don't know. But we kind of got off the track. But the homeless gentleman, okay, was beaten senseless. We all saw the video on YouTube. It looks like he was complying. He looked like he was doing whatever they were asking him to do. He certainly wasn't fighting back, which was what they claimed in the case, is that the gentleman just continued to resist and resist and resist until we had to just beat him into submission, right? And they beat him to death, basically, right? We all saw that. It's gruesome. It's horrible. It's horrific. And then the images of him laying in the hospital bed, I'm telling you, that's, if you want to learn about what a police force or what police officers are capable of doing to you and get away with it, take a look at that photograph, take a look at that beating, and it'll certainly wake you up. But why did these police officers get off? All right, how does that work? All right, we know that in the Rodney King case, they walked, and it caused, many years ago, it caused riots here in Los Angeles. The people at that point, and this was many years ago, folks, I'd say the era of 89 to 94 was very tumultuous here in the streets of Los Angeles. And that was a time where people were actually very sick of a racist police force. And they would, there was a police chief we had here in LAPD named Chief Daryl Gates. And Daryl Gates I guess the LAPD was historically considered racist from day one, way back in the day, and up to current times. So this was, late 80s, early 90s, and they still had this big racist connotation or racist image. So Daryl Gates, was I really don't know much about Daryl Gates himself as a person. But I do know that he did allow these officers to operate in a specific way, okay? And I believe that's all changed, but it was evident in the Rodney King beating, and I guess to try to put these things together, is it any different now? So that's kind of what I'm saying, is that I know these officers who killed this homeless man weren't LAPD, so they weren't under the same control structure. But back in Rodney King's days, we saw what happened to Rodney King, right? And now, in modern times, we saw what happened to this homeless man. Well, was there any difference? Was there less tolerance then, or is there less tolerance now, or is it constant? And am I just imagining that it's getting worse? Was it always this bad? Right? So let's think about Rodney King, right? So for a second, what's the difference between Rodney King and this homeless gentleman? Well, there were a lot of problems. There's a lot of differences, right? But the way they all got off was the same. So Rodney King, if you don't know that story, real briefly, he had warrants out for his arrest. He was I guess he had been in prison, so he was a felon. And I don't think you're allowed to do certain crimes or hang around certain people when you're a felon. I don't know, but he was on the run from the police, and they knew who he was, and they knew he had warrants, so they were trying to stop him, and he resisted, and he drove 100 miles an hour here in the valley, and he stopped, and then they beat him, and then we saw that videotape, and then, of course, that went around the world, and that's what got this Daryl Gates removed for his racist department, and they've gone through various leaders since, and they've tried to diversify the LAPD, and I don't think it's working because of what happened yesterday, right? So we won't go there, but so they beat this guy Rodney King, and the way that these police officers got off, which caused the LA riots, we remember that. So the officers that beat Rodney King, they had their trials in Simi Valley, California, which is a predominantly white area. So they took it out of the Lakeview Terrace area, or the Pacoima area where it occurred, and they took it to a predominantly white area, and that jury let them go. Now, to parallel that is kind of the same thing for the homeless gentleman, right? So the homeless man was beaten savagely to death, and the area, or the county in which these officers lived, the jury which was selected was predominantly acceptable. Let's just say that acceptable to the defendants, and they found in their cause. Okay, and they let them go. Now, why did they let them go? It's the same in both cases. Resistance. They claim that Rodney King resisted to the point of deserving what he got. Well, the officers that beat the homeless man say the same thing, right? They said he continued to resist. And when you watch the videos, because that's why we can parallel these cases, is because they were both on videotape, and they both went around the world and had their impact, right? One survived and one died. One was felonious assault by police officer, and one was murder, right? By police officer, multiple police officers. So the cases are there. They're on video where we can watch them. Did these people resist to the point of deserving what they got? Death? I believe Rodney King had an eye go bad, or he had a permanent limp, permanent damage. I mean, it was that necessary? And what you saw on those tapes, in your opinion, was that resistance to the point of deserving what they got? Hell no. Wyme says hell no. Right? Okay, so resisting. Both cases ended the same way. Rodney King was alleged to jump up and lunge towards the police officer, and that was it. Well, this gentleman refused to, I believe it was, turn over and get onto his back. So I believe he was cowering in a certain position, and it wasn't acceptable to the police, so they continued to beat him in the face and in the head in order for him to comply. And I guess he was at a point to where he couldn't, right? He was just senseless. So I guess the position he was in allowed the police to murder him. Okay, guys? So let's remember that, and let's think about that. That if we resist anything these police do, whether we're angry, whether we lost our patience, whether society has gotten to a point to where we can no longer, basically, ask a police officer a question. Why am I being pulled over? Oh, is that resistance? Can I get beaten for that? When is this line gonna be raised on the resistance? And yesterday, when this person was running away from them, I would like to know who shot first. Because that's not clear in the report from the LA Times. That's bad for you, LA Times. Come on. Was that was his resistance to run, and was their resistance to shoot? And did he shoot back? I don't know. I would like to know. All right? But if we resist because of our frustration with society and the way it's working, okay, and we find out that the police officers that we're dealing with are impatient or have been told to be or trained to be, that we could potentially lose our lives. All right? And have a complete neighborhood locked down square to where, you're going to lose your life and your wife's not even going to go be able to pick up your child. If that's a scenario, right? Or say some wacko is shot dead, or shoots back at the police and you can't get your child for 5 hours. What is that? And where does our tolerance of that stop? Okay, or does that frustrate us more to where we want to resist? Right, and then when you resist against a locked gate, there's not much you can really do. Right. So summing it up, guys, listen. Police violence is real. Okay, and it happens on a daily basis. Okay. They're only going to amass their power structure, or they are only going to alert themselves and save themselves to the point of shutting down quarter square mile areas with businesses and schools and locking everybody inside. So martial law in a little, quarter square mile area. All right. Now they're only going to do that when they get shot, and they're not going to do that for you. And there's no patrols, or there's no command center, mobile command center on New Year's Eve when it's like the wild, wild west. All right. Have we become more frustrated and less tolerant than we were 20 years ago, 25 years ago? I don't know. Have the police become less racist and more tolerant, or vice versa since Rodney King? Now, I don't have any of these answers. Okay, I'm not going to be able to give you any of these answers, but I just want you to understand that this is all occurring on a daily basis, and it's occurring potentially in your neighborhood. So just pay attention to it. All right. Watch how people respond to you when you even say hello, or if you bump into them, or if you step on their toe, or if you do, or if you park, or if this is the worst one, if you take a parking spot from somebody, or park too close, they turn to the F words and the "I'll cut your head off" immediately. Now, where do these people? How are these people raised? I don't know. What I have no idea who taught them to say that or to react that way. But could it be the times? Could it be society? Could they have been driven to that, right? From whatever they're running from, or whatever crimes they've committed, or whatever life they've established. Did it run them? Did they run to that? Or is that how they've all become consciously that, no, we're just going to attack everything. And, cop tells us to stop, we're going to shoot, right? Whether the cop shot first or not, And does it occur on the other side? So do the police say, are they less tolerant, and we going to go in with guns blazing? And if someone shoots us, they're going to get it. It's possible. And I think that if we learn anything from Rodney King to now, these police officers being let go, if we learn anything, we do have to learn that police brutality is constant. It is a a consistent way of suppressing society into living a good life out of fear of not being murdered. Okay, so if you wonder why a lot of these people, why these police officers are let free, if you've ever been involved in a criminal case, you know that your attorneys pick your jury. All right, and if you follow mafia cases, then you know that there's all sorts of jury tampering. When you tamper with a jury, you get the result you want. Okay, so your client goes free even though he's a murderer. Okay, a lot of the time when juries are tampered with, they're tampered with for a specific agenda because they want a specific outcome for the court case. All right, in these cases, Rodney King and in this homeless gentleman that was beaten to death, those messages were clearly sent. Now, whether it was jury tampering or not, there was still an agenda for both of these cases. And that agenda was for these police officers to walk free to send the message that it is okay to now assault you and kill you based on your resistance to them. All right? So that's what's occurring. Right? And that's the points and everything I tried to parallel here by kind of giving you a rundown of an older case 25 years ago or so to a new case of police brutality where it went the whole length all the way to the person being murdered, and they were let go, and it was done for a reason, guys. That wasn't just by chance. That was to anger the population. All right, that was the old Trayvon Martin thing. All right, that's a whole nother show. All right, but all of that is media manipulation to make the races hate each other, to make us hate each other. This is their part. This is what they get to do now with the information. They now get to spin it any way they want, turn us all against each other. Right? Well, in these cases, it's done to scare you. It's done to let you know that you better not resist, because we have the right to assault you, to break your limbs, and to kill you if you do not do what we say. Okay? That's why these people walked free. There's no other reason for it. All right? So let's think about that. And the next time you do get pulled over by a police officer, let's take a breath, right? And let's be patient. Let's wind the clock back a little bit and say, let me give this a chance, because I know where this guy's coming from. All jacked up on whatever he's jacked up on, fresh out of Afghanistan or Iraq and ready to rock, so to speak, with that whatever he's got, that Smith & Wesson. Or that nightclub, right? Or Billy Club, whatever you call it. Nightclub. Right? So, all right, folks, so I want you to think about that. Police brutality in modern day, all right? And who is less tolerant of who? Are we less tolerant of the police, or are they less tolerant of us? And in which direction is any of that going, right? And when police officers are let free after killing somebody, claiming that they resisted, and they are let free, that is a sign to you from everybody involved in that case. Power structure, judge, city, everything. Police force, that now you better learn from this guy here, this homeless guy, that you do what we say or we have the right to kill you. All right, so let's go on. Hey, let's listen to a great song. We're going to take a little quick break. Let's listen to a quick song from Mr. Oliver Sudden. This is Getting Old. You're going to like this.
Yeah, I'm getting old. Feel it. Boy, listen. I'm getting old now, I'm wondering where time's gone. Still here and still getting my rhyme on. Still rock my sax flow on like Simon. Quite long time goes by, but my mind's strong. Now I'm feeling the 30s nerves. The whole time I've been living in a learning curve. There's been ups, been downs, but I firmed the worst. I chilled out with my family, burning herbs, and won't let my future be dry. Quite hard trying to move with these times. Wanna see the world getting souvenirs from hip-hop. I don't want a new career. I'll be working, earning, writing hits, sending mad though home to the wife and kids. Killing the mic with ridiculous hype. I'll be living my life with my fingers in pies. As time goes by, I will ride those mics. Chin up, get back and dry those eyes. If it sits up, I don't mind. It inspires me to rhyme so fly. As time goes by, I will ride those mics. Chin up, get back and dry those eyes. I won't stop when I get into the top, cause a quitter is something I am definitely not. I ain't looking to be old and grey, still token J's with no dough to my name. With another loan to pay, I wanna be cruising on my rollerblades. Tearing up melodies when I'm 70. I ain't looking to be no celebrity. That there is something I will never be. Couldn't handle all the beef and the jealousy. Ain't a rival to take my title. Old man battle rappers for a plate of trifle. Living in the yard that is made of vinyl. Talking about how juggling the breaks is vital. Talking shit then I pause a bit and talk about life back when I was 46. How I never thought that I would need a walking stick. And now I never had one single thought to quit. As time goes by I will ride those mics. Chin up, get back and dry those eyes. If it's tits up I don't mind. It inspires me to rhyme so fly. As time goes by I will ride those mics. Chin up, get back and dry those eyes. I won't stop when I get into the top. Cause a quitter is something I am definitely not. After so many years of the madness, in my heart there will be no sadness. Writing book of underground rap tactics, reading it out at bedtime to the grandkids. Still picking up the mic, just to give a shout to my lovely wife. Then it's time to get rowdy with it. Then go chill up in my house in the sticks. I will be so proud of the kids. I'm my first son when he's out with the chicks. I tell him to stay off the bifters, watch for your sisters and bring me my slippers. I'm gonna breed the best, away with the good, I don't need the rest. I'll be on this for life and I'm rocking it right. Bad news for all of the MCs that test. As time goes by I will ride those mics. Chin up, get back and dry those highs.
All right, thanks Mr. Oliver Sudden. You like that guy out of the UK, and that is Getting Old. All right, thank you, Oliver. That is awesome. I love that music. Now, check out Oliver Sudden and all of the rappers there out in the UK. You know, take a look at those guys, man. They are tearing it up. I think that possibly will be the next wave of hip hop. These guys are going to break big. I can see that coming. Now, all right. So welcome back to the the Wyme Wruscel Radio Show here on the Russell Internet Radio Experience. We are now moving into the second hour, and we're going to shortly be talking to Mr. Sal Rodriguez, actor, comedian here in Los Angeles, California, and he'll be joining us via the telephone, and he's going to call in and tell us what's new with good old Sal Rodriguez. Now, all right, so where are we? Brief discussion on crime and police brutality. We were going to go ahead and I just want to let you know that there are a few statistics until Sal calls in, of course. Let's see. So, my case here in Reseda, or my situation here in Reseda, Los Angeles, could be unique, you know, because it's so, or unique to the millions of people living here, of course. But sorry about that. But in Rochester, New York, I do have a few statistics of crime. So, when you look at murder and robbery. Okay, murder and robbery have gone up, even in a medium-sized city like Rochester. Okay, so there were 36 in 2012. They went up to 42 in 2013. So that's a 16% jump in murder. All right, so even in small towns, I mean, it's kind of, you know, the lack of patience in society is decreasing, or the desperation of people without money is increasing, right? Where we're willing to do more, I guess, or where certain people are willing to do more to get what they have to get, money, right? So robberies were up. Let's see, there were 823 robberies in 2012. These stats are from Rochester, New York, from the Rochester Crime Bureau, whatever that is. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, so look at that. So 823 in 2012, 905 in 2013. That's a 10% jump. All right, so these statistics, even from a medium city or a smaller city like Rochester, New York, it shows you that crime is on the rise and murder is on the rise, and it's the violent ones. I mean, it's the bad ones. You know, and why are we doing that? Or why is society? Why are the crime rates jumping so dramatically? Right, because those are dramatic jumps, right, for those areas. Now, I can only imagine these stats for Los Angeles. They would be mind-numbing, right? So, or any large city would be, or is mine. And then when you take all of these murder rates and all of these statistics in contrast with European countries, it's really shocking how few of these crimes occur around the world as opposed to here in America. So we are the crime capital of the world, no doubt. And don't ever let any media company tell you that that's somewhere else, because that's here in America. So crime goes up in every city. Even let's see. Hey, I think we have Mr. Sal Rodriguez on the line. Let's take a quick look. Hey, Sal, you there? And we'll pick him back up in 1 second. All right, let's jump to, hey, you know what? While I get Sal on the line, let's jump to another song. Hey, this is a great song. This is Ant Savage, Lack Luck. Sorry, got to play this real quick, but we got to go ahead and get him up live. Thank you very much.
Maybe I should learn to keep my eyes shut when I ride buses through the street. And I'll wait, I won't be broken-hearted by the things I have come to see. It ain't nothing but a shame. Makes the blood boil in my veins, and the fire is lit, the stage is set, but I lack luck, love. Fire is lit, the stage is set, but I lack love. And if I close my eyes for a second, your face is the first thing I see. Many ways I'm blessed to share this time. This time you share with me. We're just victims of circumstance. Time with a noose around his neck. Fire is lit, the stage is set, but I lack love. The fire is lit, the stage is set, but I lack love. Stage set, but I lack luck, love. And the fire is
all right, thank you, Mr. Ant Savage. I appreciate that through my technical difficulties there. That is the song Lack Luck. Please check out Ant Savage. You can hear all of his music here on thewireradio.com, and you can also find him on SoundCloud. That is an amazing artist there. Now, if Mr. Sal Rodriguez is listening to me and he would like to call back in, I believe we're ready for you there, buddy, and I will keep rattling off nonsense until you call, but go ahead and give us another shot there, Mr. Sal Rodriguez, and we'll go ahead and get you started now. So here on the WireRadio.com, you are going to hear many things here on the Wruscel Internet Radio experience, and let's briefly talk about one that you hear usually, hopefully, every day after this show, and that is the Nugbug 420 Steamship. Now, Nugbug got off to a rough start here on the WireRadio.com. You know, in his first episode, he kind of badmouthed old Wyme, right? And you know that doesn't go over well here in the the bunker, so to speak. So me and Nuggy kind of had it out, and we kind of had to go back to the boardroom and the drawing room, so to speak, and we kind of got things ironed out. And today, he will be joining us later on his steamship to give us the one of his latest strain reviews. I don't know where he is today, but Nuggy will fill you all in on that. And I believe if we can find Sal out there somewhere, wherever he is, we're gonna try to have him, get on into the Nuggy show too, and see if he can't rattle Nuggy's feathers, so to speak. So now, in the event we don't have a guest for this second hour, and he doesn't give us a call back, we are going to go ahead and actually end this show early. I know we've gone for about an hour now, which is substantial, but we do want to get our interview in with Mr. Sal Rodriguez. So Sal, again, if you're listening, go ahead and give me a call back. Now, I want to ask you a question about crime, okay? And I want to ask you a question that are we as safe as we can afford? All right, now let's think about that one. So, in society, are you safe? You know, is your personal property or is your personal life safe based on what you can afford? So I guess saying the less fortunate or the people without money, are they less safe than people with money? Well, the statistics would kind of make you, or you know what? If you looked at that as a whole, you would say to yourself, well, yeah, that makes sense. So they can afford bigger homes, better locks, and what have you. But it's not really that's not really the case. Okay, and obviously, if we think of the motivation for crime and the reason why crime occurs, generally it is to get money, right? Crime always has a money issue. Let's take a look here. Hi, do we have Mr. Sal Rodriguez on the line?
Hello, Wyme, can you hear me?
There you
I can faintly and barely hear you.
There you are, buddy. All right, Sal, you're there, buddy. Are you there?
I'm here, but you sound like a whisper.
Okay, well, you can hear me though, right, buddy? Can you hear me better?
I hear you a little bit better now. Are we on the air right now?
We're on the air, buddy. We're going. And
okay,
sorry about the little calling. Let me set this up. Sorry about that. My answering machine is jank, and we all know that. So that picked you up the first time, and then I threw it into a song. Now you're back. Now you're called. All that crap's out of the way. I can hear you good.
Okay, great. If you can hear me just fine, is there any way you can turn yourself up a little bit?
I believe I can. Let's give that a shot. So is that a little louder there for you?
Yeah, that sounds better.
All right. That's a good deal.
Well, hello, Wyme Wruscel. Thanks for having me on your show.
What's up? So, all right. So joining us here on the, sorry, folks, for all the technical issues there. This is all new to me, and all of the systems are all new here at thewireradio.com. But we have our first guest, which is very exciting, and that is the actor and comedian, Mr. Sal Rodriguez. Hello, Sal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Oh, I thought you were going to play some sort of MP3 of applause and screams.
No, if I was an octopus, I could have accomplished that. But no, I just don't want to lose you. So here we are. And how are you, and how is 2014 going thus far, my friend?
2014 is going really great. I have plenty of time for naps, cat loving and cat kissing, plenty of time to watch YouTube. It's been a very productive 2014.
Well, all right. And so, is that productive, or is that just creative?
I'm being sarcastic, Wyme.
Ah. All right. Okay. So, let's just get started with who Mr. Sal Rodriguez is. Okay. So, what do you do? Where do you come from? And why should we know Mr. Sal Rodriguez? What's going on?
Well, namely, everyone should get to know Sal Rodriguez so that they might hire him.
All right.
Hire him for anything and everything. I consider myself multiversed performer, entertainer. I do everything from stand-up comedy to event hosting to acting. As a matter of fact, if I can give a little plug, I'm going to be in an upcoming film, currently just completed post-production, called The Fifth Dimension, where I am playing a quantum physicist. That movie should be released within the next few months. We're going to be having a private screening of it pretty soon. So be on the lookout for a movie called The Fifth Dimension. It's a sci-fi, indie horror sci-fi. Keep an eye out for that, starring yours truly.
Wow.
And also, I will be upcoming hosting I believe it'll be the 8th annual Los Angeles United Film Festival.
All right.
In the Hollywood area. I'm going to be hosting that again for the 8th time. I've been there every year. I've been their mainstay host. I'm very grateful for that, to United Films and Jason Connell for having me back.
Good.
So those are a few things I'll be working on and have worked on recently.
All
also
right.
available for private hire for your event or wedding.
Outstanding. And so you need to get the Wire Radio hooked up deep into that film festival, man. We can cover it, man. We can do some live something. So since you're
covering the film festival, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, since you're an inside guy, you gotta hook a homeboy up. All right.
Well, I'm inside. I don't know if that implies I have juice.
Oh.
I don't know if I have juice, but I'll see whatever insider pull I can utilize. I definitely would.
Cool. All right. Well, you know what, Sal? Now I've known you for many years, and Sal and I kind of grew up together here in the crazy streets of Los Angeles, or wherever we were running around. But I want to ask you a question, man, and we're going to start in the very beginning of this. And I want to ask you, when we were kids and we were doing the things we were doing, what made you decide on a career in entertainment? So what was it in you? What drove you there? So instead of saying you wanted to be a doctor, or, whatever, you decided on a career in entertainment. So take me back to the point in your life where you decided that was what you were going to go for and strive for, and and you hit it pretty hard through the years. I've noticed that. So tell me, what made you go into the entertainment field?
I'm based on the previous topic in the first hour, and then you mentioned what we did when we were kids. I thought you were going to say, why did you choose to go into the life of crime? That's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, it could be, right? Certain levels of entertainment is criminal, right? But and there are a lot of criminals in it. But what made you want to be an artist, man?
Well, there's a lot to be said for what they call the birth order. I don't know if you've ever read any books.
No, I've never read any books.
Lectures on
just
the
bristleface.
topic and concept of birth order and how birth order affects personality.
Okay. Sounds interesting. Explain it.
I'm the last born, and being the last born, stereotypically, and I believe statistically, will give the greater odds of the fifth or the last born being in some sort of field of entertainment.
Really?
Something in being in the public eye, whether it be some form of speaking or performing or entertaining.
Wow.
So I definitely believe that I fit that mold. I think a lot of that has to do with when you're the last born, you need to get attention somehow.
Right. Yeah, I'm the last born. That's interesting you say that. So I'm the...
Well, there you go. Then we're two living examples.
So you are
of the last born theory.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting. I'm writing that down. Last born theory. Now, you mentioned you're the last born. So do you have a large family, Sal? What do you have? Brothers, sisters? What do you got?
Well, if we were to really break it down technically, I have 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. Okay. Therefore, I'm the last born. But to be technical, I also have a younger brother in Ohio whom I've never met. So he and my father live in Ohio with my dad's second wife. And I've never had the pleasure of meeting my younger brother.
Wow.
Who I guess would be then officially a last born, because guess what? He puts himself in front of the camera, and he is a very talented filmmaker and editor.
Really? Wow. So it's running in the family, so to speak, right?
I think there's a lot of stuff to do as far as genetic. If you were to go down my family line, my dad was a nightclub singer.
Wow.
And then before him, I believe his dad was the town musician back somewhere in Tijuana, Mexico, I believe.
No kidding. It's very interesting, man. So you have a long line of this entertainment energy in your blood. What was the first step, man? And what age did you make that commitment? Because you're committed, man. I know that. So what age did you say, all right, this is it? And did you have any help? I mean, how'd you get into it? I know you were an extra. You did some extra work at an early age. I guess that's how a lot of people get it all kind of going. But what got you started, and can you give us any of some of your extra stories, and maybe who you met, and any of those experiences?
If I were to go back in time, I'd have to...
But what got you started, man? That's what I've always wondered.
Well, let me go back to when I was really young, and that was when I used to be a singer.
Wow, no way.
I was actually a singer as a kid, particularly at school events, school assemblies, school graduations. I was the singer of the school, or one of the singers of the school. But then a horrible thing happened about the age of 12 years old.
Oh, no. All right. Hold my breath? Should I mute it? No.
Puberty.
Oh, no. So you had this amazing high voice and this amazing, what is it, soprano or whatever it is?
I was a soprano.
Oh, my goodness.
And then puberty came along, and if you remember the episode of the Brady Bunch where Peter goes through puberty.
Yes. Oh, boy.
You see the horrors that lie within.
Oh, my goodness. So you experienced the drop in your whatever, in your tone, and you were no longer able to sing? What happened, man?
You may say that the type of singing I had grown accustomed to, which was singing in the soprano and occasional falsetto manner, was changing up during my adolescence. And so let's just say that my voice in singing form was not pleasant.
Very, very interesting.
So after a couple of years of realizing, wow, I can't really sing how I used to, and I'm not professing to be that I was a magnificent singer, but I was a singer.
Wow.
And so then I discovered rap right around the time where I realized, I don't know if I can sing on a stage necessarily. Then that's when I discovered rap. So I was very much involved in rap from about the age of, I would say, 14 to 21.
Okay. All right.
Everywhere from rapping at parties to recording demo tapes.
Yeah. Sure. Heck yeah. Yeah, we were both involved in that, and that's how we, that's how we spent a lot of our time in our early 20s and our early late teens, and tried to get a rap career going, did we not? And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's no reason to be ashamed of any of that, because when I listen to all that work now, our heart went into those songs, and you know what? They're still damn good, if Wyme can certainly say that. But hey, you know what? You went from singing soprano to rapping. All right, so how did you make the transition from aspiring rapper to aspiring actor comedian? I never knew where that jump went. Now you were with Wyme deep in that studio making that rap music, but how did you make that transition, or where'd you get the interest and the outgoing nature to be a stand-up comedian? Now that was something that was interesting to me. Was okay, I knew the acting stuff and the extra stuff, and you wanted bigger roles and parts and do that, but boy, when Sal's a comedian now, and now he's up on a stage, and I watch your performance, and I'm impressed, man. And you know what? I never saw that side of you in doing the rap music. I mean, I knew if we ever got on stage, we'd be the biggest things ever. I knew that, but I never saw this outwardness in you of being a stand-up comedian or a very talented comic. How'd that happen, man? And where'd you find that? I mean,
I appreciate that very much, Wyme. I think that my rap years, as I fondly refer to them,
the best years, yeah,
I had a great time. I think for me, a large part of my rap persona and rap attitude was reflective of or indicative of my overall lifestyle. I mean, I definitely was a juvenile delinquent. I lived, you may say, to the other side of the law, leaning in that direction for several years. And so at the same time rapping about being on the streets, because I was on the streets.
Wow.
I was doing things that I don't discuss with people sometimes.
Wow, no kidding.
So I was living that life, and I was rapping about it, and that was who I was at the time. Once I started, you may say, living a normal lifestyle, a regular lifestyle, a tax-paying lifestyle in my early 20s, is when then I think a lot of the rap attitude or swagger started to dissipate, because, I mean, I would probably feel like a fraud if I were to rap about living some sort of life, but I really wasn't. It would just feel like fiction.
Right.
So then I just started to think, okay, well, what else do I enjoy doing? I obviously am okay being on stage. I do not have crowd fright or stage fright. And then at one point in time, there used to be a comedy club called the LA Cabaret on in Encino.
I remember that.
Boulevard.
Skip Stevenson. That was Skip Stevenson's club, if you
Skip
know who
Stevenson
that is.
From Real People, he owned it.
Yeah, he did own it, man. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So I did a comedy night there. It was a funniest person in the Valley contest. And I think I was about 19, no more than 20 years old. And I decided to enter the funniest person in the Valley contest. And that night, there was a winner crowned, and it was not me. It was not me. But that winner crowned that night, Carlos Mencia. So I competed in the comedy contest against Carlos Mencia going back 20 years. I have a certain belief system. I think that any comedian or any performer, if you were to speak to a musician, they have certain thoughts, opinions, and ideologies about music. And I have certain thoughts, opinions, and ideologies when it comes to comedy. And I probably always had them. I would say one of the first ideologies that I have as a comedic performer is I need to have fun. Right. I need to have a good time. I'm selfish enough to want to have fun myself. I could not get up on stage and not enjoy myself because I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Right. So you find yourself enjoying it as much as you're trying to spread the enjoyment, so to speak. So you actually like it. You have fun doing it. I have fun doing it. It kind of shows when you're up.
But then that may come back to bite you then in one sense, though, because every now and again, today, let's say I'm doing comedy, it's not my number one concern if the audience is laughing. That's not my number one concern.
Okay.
My number one concern is, how do I feel about this joke? How do I feel about my performance? How do I feel? Because otherwise you're putting, as a performer, as a comedic performer, or as any probably entertainer, you're putting the power, you're giving your power to the audience. You're telling them to tell you you're funny.
Right.
When you need to know if you're a musician, you know you're in tune, you know you're good. As a comedian, you know your rhythm is good, your material is good. So you have to have that self-assurance. In other words, the first person you have to please is yourself. You got to please yourself first.
Sounds right, man.
And if you're pleasing yourself, I know the good news is I have enough of a comedic sensibility and experience to be okay with trusting and being okay with myself first and foremost, and then the audience will come along then. Also.
Right. Well, for sure. Let's hope so. But that audience also has the ability to determine your level of success, right? Because without an audience, we are all just people just doing this to empty rooms, right?
I think that what an entertainer would start to realize, I believe, is that if you are only, let's say, dancing to the beat of your own drummer or walking to the beat of your own drummer, and you're not getting booked anywhere, let's say, or no one's having you, well, then that would be probably an obvious sign.
Right.
But if you're going along your happy-go-lucky way, doing your thing, being confident with your thing, whatever it is, in this instance, comedy, and meanwhile, people keep inviting you places.
Right.
I mean, I was invited to the Middle East to perform for our troops. I was invited to Japan to perform for our troops. I was invited to be the mainstay host of the film festival. I was invited to host this video. In other words, people open up their door.
Right.
And I think that's what I think a person has to realize. If you're pursuing something and it really is your own truth, if you will, and then you'll start to see doors opening. I think that if a person were to see a lot of doors closing, I would say if they noticed a pattern of doors closing, maybe it's some sort of sign. Maybe it's you have to wake up to the reality. I mean, the truth is some people are not gifted performers, are not talented comedians, are not talented musicians or singers or dancers. There are some people who just don't got it. Right. And that's okay. You know, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. But I think after a while of pursuing something, a person would have to ask themselves, well, where do I fit in? Am I really good at this, or am I just fooling myself?
Right. Yeah, well, that's definitely, every artist has to come to that realization at some point. Okay, so you're a stand-up comedian, man, and I know that working on that stage has gotten you into some pretty amazing places around the world. And so where did it lead, man, and what was next? So I know that you do an internet radio show, and you got me interested, or you got me involved in the radio show there at Skid Row Studios. So how does it lead from stand-up to radio shows to USO shows? How does that work? I mean, so let me know the progression of it. How did you go from just being at the Laugh Factory open mic to being in Afghanistan? Entertaining our troops. I mean, that's amazing jump. From open mic to the USO show there in Afghanistan. So let me know, how do you get there? Who do you meet? Who did you meet, or how did that actually work? How did it all go down?
Well, I'd love to tell you. As soon as
you'd have to kill me.
The L.A. Cabaret after having lost
Skip Stevenson
Carlos
kicked you out.
Garcia,
Oh,
that I was immediately picked up to go travel the world, but that's not what happened.
oh,
I probably, when I think about it, I have two loves. I have two vocational loves.
okay.
One is entertainment, being on a microphone on a stage or in front of a camera, and the other is fitness. I actually do have a love of fitness.
That's
so
right.
I had a segue for 10 years. It was a 10-year segue and hiatus of entertainment.
No way.
Where I was strictly a independent personal fitness trainer.
No kidding.
So all through my 20s, from about the age of 21 to 31, it was full-time, nonstop personal fitness training.
Wow.
And anything entertainment related kind of took a back seat to that.
Wow, I didn't know
and going
that.
back when I was a kid, not only was I entertaining the family, but I used to enjoy watching fitness shows. I used to watch Jack LaLanne. I used to watch Richard Simmons. There was a show on early in the morning out here in Southern California, Los Angeles proper, called Body Buddies. That was a husband and wife
Right. I remember that.
exercising at 6 in the morning. And I remember I used to sit in front of the TV and enjoy watching Body Buddies.
Wow.
So all throughout my 20s, I took a hiatus from entertainment and was focused exclusively as an independent personal fitness coach. Now, independent, but I also had my time at 24-Hour Fitness as a trainer. I also had my time at Bally's as a trainer, and then a few other gyms. But off and on, and the bulk of the time spent as an independent personal fitness trainer. So it wasn't until I was about 30 years old, after coming out of a breakup, a breakup that had me torn apart, where I thought to myself, now is the time to pursue the entertainment dream that you've thought about and have considered and know that you have a knack for.
Wow.
So let's go ahead and do that. And so then I went from the age of 30 onward to things entertainment related, acting, comedy, stand-up, and now internet radio. I use the term internet radio because I think sometimes people don't know the difference between internet radio and podcasting, or if there is a difference.
Okay.
And I know you've brought up this very topic in the past.
Well, how do you feel about that?
Well, the word podcast would have to be directly tied to iPod.
Yeah.
And that would have to be directly tied to iTunes.
Right.
So podcasting as a word specifically has to do with having your audio content available on iTunes. Therefore, you record a show, could be any given show. You then put it up on iTunes. Somebody downloads it onto their iPhone, iPad, or iPod.
Right.
And that's a podcast.
Sounds right to me.
Yes. So, meanwhile, internet radio would be merely the same as regular radio, but having the audio received through a different medium. Instead of receiving it through the airwaves on an old-fashioned radio, you instead receive the audio through the internet.
Right.
But everything else is the same. It is live.
That's
it is
right.
live internet radio, the same as what they call terrestrial radio. So what a lot of people are doing now, though, is, and to me this is the best of both worlds, and that is you go out live, as you're doing right now.
Right.
You're live, like regular radio, and then also available for download or listening in archives or downloading later on through SoundCloud or through iTunes or wherever the audio file may be kept.
Correct. And we're hoping that this isn't broken up in any way, but, with technology, you never know how that's all going to work out. But I hear you, man. And broadcasting live is indeed internet radio. And here on the wireradio.com, we're going to call ourselves WM. So we're creating we're putting that into the lexicon here. That's one of my inventions. So we have AM amplitude modulation, we have FM frequency modulation, and of course we have satellite, and now we have WM, which is web modulation. Okay, so it's not a fancy one syllable, like FM or AM. It is WM, but that is in fact what internet radio is. So we are WM, we're web modulation, and we are doing our thing. Now, so let me ask you a question. So how do you rate the internet radio experience versus the stand-up, comedian experience versus the acting? What do you like best? Where does Sal kind of, if he wakes up and has his choice, what he's going to do that day, what would you pick? Where do you go?
This is going back to my original point earlier when I said that everybody has different ideologies and opinions about comedy. Or again, you could reference music or painting, if you will.
Okay.
When it comes to stand-up comedy, one of the problems for me personally, I love stand-up comedy. Let me just put that out right there. I love stand-up comedy. I love sitting in the audience and watching stand-up comedy. I love listening to stand-up comedy. As an art form, I really have a love and appreciation for stand-up comedy. But as a comedian, to be up there on stage, what you're doing to get your act together, to get a good stand-up comedy act together, you're telling the same jokes a lot, over and over and over.
Right.
You're also allowing the audience to refine your jokes. The audience, and this goes back to what I talked about the power earlier, the audience is telling you what's funny. So then the artist, the comic, refines their jokes and their act according to the feedback from the audience. Oh. Now, that's where I have a problem. Because imagine I'm an artist, and I've painted a canvas.
Right.
So then I say to the crowd, hey, everybody, here's my canvas. And they say, we don't really like that top corner up there, that column. So then I go, oh, okay. So then I take the painting back, and I repaint the column, and I come back next week and go, hey, everybody, look at my painting. We go, we don't really like the way you drew that fountain. And then I say, okay, do you see what's happening?
Right.
The artist is no longer creating and displaying in their pure form.
Right.
What they're doing is they're the audience, the people, the crowd, society is telling them what they should do.
Right.
So as a stand-up comic, if I'm going out there and throwing my same jokes out over and over and over, where is my creativity? It's lost. It's just me becoming a parrot. I'm parroting my own words. And now as an audience member, that's great. I want to hear a good set. I want to have a good laugh, and that's great. But as the performer, as the person up on stage, I have a problem being a parrot and parroting my own words over and over.
Wow. Okay.
So that's why I love even more, again, to be in an audience, I love stand-up comedy, but to be as a performer on stage with the microphone, I love hosting and I love MC.
Wow.
Because hosting and MC gives me the opportunity to be a little more fresh, a little more free, a little more spontaneous, and that allows the creativity to really come forth and where I can reveal myself as an artist.
Wow, that is very telling.
So that is my opinion and ideology when it comes to comedy and how that relates to what I enjoy doing. So I will go out and do stand-up comedy.
Right.
But I love and prefer to host the show. And the good news is other comedians do not like hosting.
Really?
Nobody wants to be the host of the show. Everybody wants to have a set within the show.
No kidding.
But I like hosting the show because I do have a little opportunity as the host to do my act, to do my set, if you will. Mm-hmm. But then I also have a greater opportunity to be completely improvisational and spontaneous.
Right, and then that's amazing. So yeah, it's a strange phenomenon when you look at the people who actually do host these shows and things we see on television. It's a trip to think that there are only a few people who can actually host it, or as you're saying, want to host it, and they're the ones who become huge stars, right? I mean, you can certainly become a major celebrity by just being a host. I mean, and I'm not saying just by limiting it. I'm saying that takes a lot of reverence and, talent. I mean, it takes a massive talent to keep people interested and keep people involved. But hey, man, it says a lot for who you are and who I know you are, and I think that you'd be an amazing host on the level of on a TV level, man. I mean, what do you think about that? Would you like to take hosting to say like a game show or like a TV level, or what are you thinking? Where does it end, or where's your where does it go?
This is the journey of life because at my age now,
right,
I want work. Right. A lot changes as you get older. When I was young, I wanted to be famous.
Right.
And then, as I got a little older, I didn't care about famous, but I wanted to be rich. And then, as I got a little older, I didn't care so much about rich and famous. Instead, I want work.
I want money, right.
I want work.
I want to survive.
You know what? Tell me where to be.
Right.
Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it to the best of my ability. You'll be satisfied. You'll be happy whether I'm going to host your event or act in your movie or be the presenter in your video. Whatever it is you want me to do, hire me. I'll go there. I'll do it. You'll be happy. I'll get a check, and I can pay my bills.
There you go.
To me, it's the utter simplicity. In other words, I will use my skill and talent to make your project good, if not better. You pay me, I get to feed my cats. It's very simple.
Hey, and throw a plug out or throw a shout out to your cats, man. What are your cats' names?
My cats' names are Fluff Daddy and Little Mister.
Whoa.
And I also feature them in my YouTube videos. You know, one of my sidelines.
Oh, here we go.
Something I do as a hobby.
And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for this. This is
for the sheer love of it.
I enjoy this side of you.
Okay, I have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Called Salvador Los Angeles.
Outstanding.
And Salvador Los Angeles channel started as a review channel. I wanted to review products. I wanted to review gadgets. So I started reviewing shoes. I started reviewing headphones.
Wow.
And then after a while, coinciding with the videos, I started collecting figures, figurines, action figures, and the occasional doll. So on my channel, I started then reviewing these action figures.
Yes.
And then now here we are, over 500 subscribers later, starting to take on a life of its own.
No kidding.
And now Salvador Los Angeles, I believe, is primarily known as an action figure reviewer and slash collector. So I review figures and I share some of my figures in a show and tell fashion. So Salvador Los Angeles is a sideline love of mine. But we'll see where that takes us, because some things do take on a life of their own. So I don't know what's in store for Salvador Los Angeles, but it does seem to be kind of growing almost in spite of myself.
Wow. So action figure collector, I know this about you. You have thousands of them, and you do something that I wanted to give you kudos for right off the bat, and that is you open them. And that is your technique, and I enjoy that, and I love watching your videos, and I watch them all. I've added to those views, man, so you got to like that. But,
I appreciate that. You know,
of course.
In order to do a good review, you have to open the figures, but there are plenty of people who don't open up their figures out of their packaging, and I think that that's part of the appeal, though, of them watching a channel like mine.
Yes.
Is that they
that's
get
what's
to
good.
see the figure in a way they are not accustomed to if they're only seeing it one-dimensionally through the front of the packaging.
They'll let old wacky Sal open it up and twist it and take that value away, and because old crazy Sal probably bought two. Right, so we don't know.
Do buy two.
We don't know how it really works.
I don't have the budget to buy two. I only buy one.
I thoroughly enjoy your videos. They're quite entertaining. I would suggest anybody to check that out. That's say it again.
Salvador Los Angeles is the YouTube channel. Cool. Now, and listen, if anybody's interested, also, I started Salvador Los Angeles because before that I had the channel Comedian Host.
Okay.
And on the Comedian Host channel, so I have two channels.
Mm-hmm.
One channel is Comedian Host,
right,
where I put up various commercials. I've been in over 50 commercials.
Yeah, that's your commercial channel. I've seen
that's a whole other topic in and of itself, but I've been in many, many commercials as an actor.
Yes.
So I put up a lot of commercials on the Comedian Host channel. I put in a few video events that I've hosted, including the LA United Film Festival. I put up various stand-up comedy routines. A couple of them were from Kadena Air Base in Japan.
Very good.
But the interesting thing is I started noticing, people don't really care. I mean, people weren't flooding my channel.
Well, they're video resumes, right? So I mean,
it's more for submitting. It's more for solicitation.
Sure.
If somebody wanted, we might want you for our video, Sal, but let me see what else you've done. Then I'll shoot them over the link of me in a corporate bank video or something like that.
Wow.
So I started it for that primarily. So then what I wanted to do is I wanted to start a channel that was just me. This is Sal. It's not Sal the comic. It's not Sal the actor. This is just me, Sal. But one thing I do enjoy doing is reviews, so that's when I started reviewing items, and then I started reviewing the action figures. So Salvador Los Angeles is me. It's Salvador Los Angeles, just like the name says.
Right.
But it is me starting to get a little theatrical also. I'm starting to infuse some of my theatrics into the video. So that's what I mean by Salvador Los Angeles as a channel, kind of taking on a life of its own, because it's kind of the amalgamation. It's the infusion of all my personalities and hobbies and talents, if you will, all encompassed in one channel, where you're gonna see it all. You're gonna see all different parts of me, maybe parts we shouldn't reveal.
Very good, and that's a good way to tease that. And you're right. So the collecting and the video channel gives you an opportunity to ball everything, all of your talents, into one lump, and to go ahead and get that out to the masses. That's how I feel about this network. It is the same for me, that it just bundles everything that I love to do into one big lemon or lump. And I'm praying that the technology is all working. Because you never really know that. We're just talking. We could be off. I mean, I really have no idea, but we got a thumbs up, so everything's fine. So, hey, check this out, Sal. So what are you going to say?
I was going to say two things. I really haven't been enjoying the music that you've been playing.
Yes, this is good stuff. Mr. Ant Savage and Mr. Oliver Sudden. Yes, those are that's music you can hear here on The Wire, man. I got to have independent stuff. So thank you for.
And then the other thing is listening to the show for the last hour.
Yes, sir.
And this topics at hand, or the topic at hand.
Right.
I had to get myself jazzed up for this interview because I mean that's some important, weighty, lofty stuff that you're talking about.
Right.
And then I'm going to come on and talk about my comedy career, just seems to pale in comparison.
Well, that's not. Hey, we're interviewing a talented comedian, so we got to talk about comedy. But here, let me shift you into that discussion real quick. We got about 10 or so minutes left. Check this out. You're very talented comedian. You worked your way into the internet radio world to a modicum of success, and I say, hey man, keep going with that because that can certainly be an avenue of directing your energies towards the society to where you can really get a message across and yourself and your career. So keep going with the internet radio, but tell me briefly about your trip to the troops, and when you and then we can discuss police brutality. But tell me about the troops, man. What is it like to interact with the U.S. military in a venue like Afghanistan? I mean, what is it like to be on the base? I mean, so you go over there as a traveling comedian group, and then you are there, and is it scary? Is it crazy? Do you hear bombs going off? I mean, what is it like to entertain people in a hostile war environment? I mean, these are war-weary soldiers, and your job is to come in and to lighten the load and to give them an evening of entertainment. What is that like? I mean, internet radio is one thing, man. I mean, we don't know who's listening and if they're enjoying it on the other end. But when you're on a stand-up comedian, I'm telling you, you're looking at their faces and you're seeing their responses, and you're looking at the faces of some war-weary people. What was that like, man? Tell us, just take us briefly through that.
Well, the good news is just prior to going to the Middle East, a few months ahead of that, I'd been up and down Japan.
Wow.
I was on another tour called Ernie G's Comedy Fiesta.
Okay.
With a couple of other great comedians, Ernie G and G Riley.
Wow.
So those two comedians and I, along with a manager, a Japan-based manager, went up and down entertaining U.S. troops in Japan. So by the time I made it to the Middle East a few months later, I was somewhat prepared, versed, and refined enough to be able to be okay with who I was as an entertainer. So then there was the question of, well, who are they? Who will they be? We're not in Japan. We are going to the Middle East. We are going to places where people have just got off the battlefronts. Literally, the day before they were on the front lines.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
And one thing I definitely found interesting my first time over there, because I've been there now twice,
no kidding, was
how conservative they are not. I think there's an image of U.S. military, because of various news instances. We may hear news stories about certain soldiers behaving a certain way or having a certain mentality. And that exists, of course. But there's a large group of military folk who are literally just regular people.
Wow.
They're just regular people who decided to pursue a career or, at the very least, a 4-year term in the military. A guy just gets out of high school. A girl just gets out of high school, wants to go to college, have the military pay for it. People that want to have a career. In other words, they're not the bloodthirsty, trigger-happy people that some people in our culture think personifies the military.
Right.
There are bloodthirsty, trigger-happy people in the military. I guess you would have to be in order to kill somebody right in front of you. But meanwhile, there's a whole population that are just literally kids. They're kids. They're 18, 19
They are
years old.
kids.
They're kids.
That's the amazing part. Yeah, they're just babies. Yeah, when you see them on
So I was surprised what material was well received. For example, one of my fellow comedians, her name was Debbie Lockhart. She did a whole Bush set all about George W. Bush, who was the sitting president at the time.
Wow.
Well, before she went into her material, I'm thinking she's going to do jokes that basically demean the sitting president here on an aircraft carrier.
Wow. You were on an aircraft carrier?
Oh, sure. We were on an aircraft carrier.
Which one?
In the Persian Gulf at one point.
Do you know which one?
It was the USS Peleliu.
No way.
And if I'm not mistaken, in case anybody fact checks, it is some form of aircraft carrier.
Wow.
It's a small one. It's a small aircraft carrier, I believe, and it also is a carrier for tanks and weapons as well, I believe.
Wow.
I mean, I'd forgotten a lot of that. We did get a tour of the ship. As far as what the specific specific function of the ship was some sort of carrier.
Wow, I just love that kind of stuff. So that was, for me. But
so she goes out there and she starts doing her material, and I start to get tense.
Uh-oh.
I start to think, oh my Lord, she's going to insult the president in front of the military.
Wow.
And guess what happened?
What happened?
They loved it.
See?
They loved it.
So she did it well, right?
She did a great job, and they wanted to hear it.
Interesting.
And one thing that's also fun about these military tours is you, as the incoming comedian,
mm-hmm.
get to make jokes about the generals and colonels.
No way.
Right in front of the rest of the troops and airmen and so forth.
But they can't, right?
They cannot. You get to say what
right.
they cannot say.
Wow. So they like that.
They really enjoyed it. So the first time I went to the Middle East, it was with Debbie Lockhart, Chris Z. Second time I went to the Middle East, Chris Z, Mary Patterson,
mm-hmm.
and Wacko. Wacko is a comedy magician.
Wacko, what is his last name?
Medellin. His last name is Medellin, but he doesn't use Medellin. He just uses Wacko.
Gotcha. Very cool, man. And we got to shout out old Chris Z. He was your co-host there on Registered Ear Offenders there on Skid Row Studios, and he's your host on your new show. Is that correct?
Chris Z and I had an internet radio show called Registered Ear Offenders that was lasted a year, and we were based out of the Skid Row Studios and based out of the Joint Studios, and we had a pleasant run on XM, Extreme Talk XM Channel 243.
Yes, I heard you on XM many times. Enjoyed the show. You guys were very good. Chris Z is a very, very nice guy. He's a very big guy. People don't realize that. He's a tall guy, and when you hear Chris speak, you don't realize when he gets up, he's going to tower over you and, kind of scare you a little bit.
Well, also, if you ever see him on any of the live streams, he's oftentimes stooped forward and stooped shoulders. A lot of tall people, and this is one thing
they don't want to be tall.
A lot of tall people have poor posture.
Because they bend and all that. But very interesting guy. Your show was great. I enjoy it. You have a new show. You have a few new shows, right?
Chris and I rebooted, if you will.
Yes.
We started a new show called It's Funny Because It's True with Sal and Chris, and we're on every Friday at 2 p.m. on RadioTitans.com. That's 2 p.m. Pacific. I am also co-host of a show at the same network at RadioTitans.com called Grown Ass Men, and I'm co-hosted by Carl Kozlowski and Clive Aiden. That's Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on RadioTitans.com.
Outstanding. And I will be listening to those absolutely. Now, I haven't. Now, those will be posted at some point, correct? For any listeners listening that don't catch you live, are they able to go on to RadioTitans.com and find your show and actually listen? Pardon me, listen to the program, or
Everything is. Fortunately, I believe Radio Titans was having some sort of technical issues.
Okay.
Radio Titans,
which we all have. I'm sure we had some today.
Is rebooted. There was about a 6-month period of time, I believe, maybe even up to 9 months, where there was no RadioTitans.com. They were originally based. Carl Kozlowski and a former partner were based out of Hollywood, had Radio Titans, and then for some reason it went. It was gone.
Okay.
Then it returned. Now it's back. Carl Kozlowski and his new partner.
Wow. So they're downtown now. There you go. They're in the big time.
Yes.
And that is outstanding. And I'm dying to hear your shows and your upcoming shows. But hey, Sal, since I got a few more minutes with you, Police Brutality, man, where do you think it's going? Let me ask you a question. Do you think that we are less tolerant of the police? Do you think the police are less tolerant of us? And what's going on, man? So, what do you think? So when you're pulled over by a police officer, are you less tolerant of what's occurring now as you were 20 years ago, or do you feel it's all the same? And let me preface that with one more question and say, do you feel that our new diverse police department treats the society better than the Daryl Gates? And I know you know what I'm talking about. The Daryl Gates era LAPD. Do you think we're in a more diverse police force where they actually treat us better, or do you feel that police racism is just racism on whether you're a cop or not, and really doesn't matter what race you are? You know what I mean? So tell me what your feeling is on police brutality and where the world is and where we are right now here in the San Fernando Valley.
Well, you mentioned two things, which I believe are separate but also one in this case.
Okay.
You mentioned police brutality and you mentioned racism.
Right.
Now, there's police brutality and there's racism, and then there's, I would say, racist-infused police brutality.
Okay.
Now, there are some people out there that would probably say police are no more likely to beat someone of another color as they are to beat someone of their own color. But I believe when you have read the statistics that there is an overwhelming greater number of white police who have beaten or tased or shot members of the black community, or specifically non-whites. Okay. That has occurred with greater frequency and with, I don't know.
Right. Well,
there has been more cases of white police beating non-white people than there are of black police or Latino police beating anyone.
Right. And that's true. I assume that would be true based on the fact of that there were probably more white police officers than any other race. But, you're probably right. But do you feel that now in the police forces that we have now that are multicultural, do you feel that they're now still angry, and that when they approach you, regardless of your race, that they're now angry with you that you're just not a police officer? Do you feel that the racism is just on the lines of, say, whether you're a cop or not, and that maybe those racial lines have been, I guess the question is, have the racial lines been erased with this more diverse police force we have? So the more Latinos or the more black police officers or the Asian police officers we have on the street, is the police department becoming more tolerant of society and vice versa, or are they becoming less tolerant? That would be the question.
I think you have to go back to numbers. I think you have to go back to statistics. You have to look at, what is the racial demographic of the police departments in various municipalities?
Right.
What is the racial demographic of the citizens at large? And then, what is the racial demographic of instances of police violence against citizens? Right. So once you have those three wheels turning together and you understand where everything's at as a landscape, is where I believe that you can make that, you can have an idea about around that. In other words, is it getting better or is it getting worse? I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are. You mentioned earlier in your hour that crimes have gone up, but I remember reading an article, I forgot if it was the LA Times.
I read the stats
saying that crime has gone down.
Well, I read the stat. It's interesting. I read the stats for Rochester, New York, 2013. And those were the two stats that went up, but all the other stats went down.
Okay, I remember.
So I was only mentioning
in Los Angeles. They said that crime has gone down in the last few years.
But that's percentage based on the populace or the population.
That's based on the population.
That's
not based on instances.
That's per capita or whatever. Whatever the hell that means.
Well, that's not a good statistic. It should be based on instances and occurrences, not necessarily based on per capita and population.
Right.
That should be a separate thing.
Right, and that's why I kind of read the statistics for Rochester and not for the Valley here, because I was trying to go kind of from personal experience and how I personally feel. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever personally been a victim of police violence or police brutality?
I have not been a victim of police violence, but I would say that I have been a victim of police profiling, and I would say treatment. I would say a different kind of treatment. I would call a different class of treatment.
Now, when you say police profiling, would this have been from white police officers?
Yes, I believe so.
Or from any police officer?
Los Angeles. I'm referring to various places in the United States as well.
Okay, all right.
But I remember that there were many times as a teenager, if you were a Latino teenager getting pulled over by the police that were overwhelmingly white,
right?
If you were a Latino teenager, you got pulled over by the police, they would make you sit out on the curb. They would make you get out of your car and sit on the curb.
Handcuffed.
Yes.
Right. I remember that.
At the very least,
I've been on that curb.
At the very least, sit on the curb.
Right.
And what my friends and I noticed is that when we had a few instances of seeing white kids pulled over by the police,
right,
we didn't see them sitting on the curb. So they would make us sit on the curb in some sort of humiliating, subjugating fashion. And yet they wouldn't have the white kids sit out on the curb.
You're absolutely right about that, Sal, and I'll let you know that. And I'll give you personal experience for that. I was pulled over in your neighborhood, my friend, on a scooter in Pacoima, right by the projects, and it was Puerto Rican gentleman and me, and it was my scooter, and we were, I believe we were trying to buy some sort of marijuana. And of course, that was illegal, and it still is illegal, so I'm not advocating that, but I believe we were buying marijuana, and we were on my scooter, and I believe I was driving, but we were pulled over, and the Puerto Rican kid got the ticket, and I drove away without the ticket and the marijuana. So I don't know why that occurred.
They gave him a ticket and let you drive away with marijuana.
We threw the marijuana on the ground, and it was under the scooter when they were doing their search. And after he was finished writing the Puerto Rican kid a ticket, he told me to stay away from people like this and to be very careful. And he shined the light on the bag of marijuana and says, "You might want to pick that up."
Wow.
And we got back on the scooter, and I drove away. And he was on the back, and that man hates me to this day because of that. But no, you're absolutely right, and those occurrences do exist. But Sal, I want to thank you very much for joining me today here on the Wruscel Internet Radio Experience. The Wyme Wruscel Radio Show was a little rough getting you started, but once we got you started, we got you up. We might have dropped a couple times, but no worries. We're learning how it all works. And thank you for joining me, man. And is there anything you'd like to say in closing to get your plugs out? And I know you're on Radio Titans. You have the YouTube channels. Is there anything more you'd like to say? Anywhere else we can see you?
Well, I just want to remind everyone to go to radiotitans.com, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Fridays to hear Grown Ass Men, and then at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to hear It's Funny Because It's True with Sal and Chris. That's on radiotitans.com. Also invite everybody to go to youtube.com/comedian host for various stand-up comedy hosting and commercial videos, or Salvador, Los Angeles, to see many action figure reviews and also more things to come. You can also probably be directed to everything by going to salrodriguez.com, most likely. But I appreciate you having me on the air.
Man, thank you.
Thanks for having me as your guest. Wyme, you're doing a great job on the Wire Radio.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. And hey, you know what? Spread the love, my friend. And if you can have, Wymeezy on one of your shows, one of them. I mean, I know you have a few. Gee,
I have so many, I can't keep track.
Just holla, because I'm more than happy to spread my word as well. And I can be funny. I can try. I could take the sweater off, and we can do what we got to do. All right.
All right, Juan.
So there we are. And thank you, Sal Rodriguez, for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. You have a good day, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Juan.
All right, man. Have a good day. All right. So that was Sal Rodriguez, comedian and actor. And thank you for joining me today, Sal, a personal friend of mine. Wanted to kind of catch up with him and let you know what he was up to, where you could find his work, and so forth. So I appreciate that. That was a lot of fun. And Police Brutality, guys, let's figure out if they are less tolerant to us, or are we less tolerant to them, and why does police brutality continue to happen, and to levels of people being beaten to death, and why do these people walk free, guys? And that is to let us know that we better comply. All right, so thank you for listening to the Wyme Wruscel Radio Show, and I'm going to let you go with a little Ant Savage, Lack Luck. It is a great song. Here you are, Mr. Ant Savage.
Maybe I should learn to keep my eyes shut when I ride buses through the street, and that way I won't be broken hearted by the things I have come to see. It ain't nothing but a shame, makes the blood boil in my veins, and the fire is lit, the stage is set, but I lack luck, love.